Don't worry about me. I don't know how to take off the welcome screen, but we are here. Welcome to Albuquerque Journal, Albuquerque Journal Sports Live post-game show. And I am Geoff Grammer with the Albuquerque Journal and joined as always by Sean Reider, who was at the Lobo football game. He is our primary football writer for the Albuquerque Journal. Sean, what was first of all, I'll set the stage for those who don't know. I don't know how many people are watching that don't already know this, but for those that don't know, the UNM Lobos beat Air Force tonight at University Stadium, 52 to 37, rather. It's the first time since 1916 that the Lobos have scored 50 points in back-to-back games, because a week ago, 2 weeks ago, rather, because they had a bye week, they beat the in-state rival, New Mexico State Aggies, 50 to 40. So 50 points in back-to-back weeks for a Lobo team that we've known and talked about all season, has a pretty potent offense. I think they showed that again today. This game was in control, well in control, really throughout. We can nitpick, and we'll discuss a little bit Air Force kind of coming back and tacking on some scores late. Frankly, for somebody who has covered both the New Mexico State Aggies and New Mexico Lobos for a long time, there's a lot that goes into those late second half scores when games are really out of touch, and it's usually on the other side, right? That's what you try and build on. If you're the team that got blown out and you add a couple late scores, you say, well, they never gave up. You do need to know how to close out games, and the Lobos, I guess if you're going to look and nitpick at something, that's probably it. But they got to win. They got the first conference win of the season, first conference win for Bronco Mendenhall coached Lobos in the Mountain West era since he's been back. And I'll ask you, what was the post-game chatter like in that post-game press conference?
The chatter initially that I kind of registered wasn't so much in the press conference. It was we do press conferences in the new weight room that they run out of to get onto the field and all that. The chatter that I kind of noticed was just how loud the celebration was in the locker room.
Sure.
It was really loud. The chatter in general, though, guys are happy. Bronco Mendenhall, head coach. He said, look, it's just flat out. It's better to be progressing and doing all this stuff when you're winning as opposed to when you're not winning. And he said very much, UNM is a work in progress, and they still have a long way to go. And I think we saw some of that in the defensive side of the ball. But it really, in terms of the offense and all that, like it really, guys are very satisfied in terms of that. And even when we talked to Kristen Ellis too about the defense, there was some air of, I don't want to say outright satisfaction, but they were like, well, we did good things tonight. It just didn't, it was a little bit of a rocky finish.
I have a light that's usually on here that is not on, and I don't know how to fix it. You guys get to look at me like a ghost, like a Halloween. I got a light over here. Anyway, I thought what I was impressed with most out of the Lobos is that they came out early, and minus the first drive, obviously you win the coin toss and decide we want the ball. It's because you're really confident in your offense. Your offense then goes 3 and out and gives up a 9-minute, 28-second scoring drive, 17 plays or something crazy like that, or 11 plays. I don't know.
17 plays into that. No, it was 17 plays.
Was it 17?
Yeah, 17 plays.
Okay. 17 plays, 9 minutes, 28 seconds. It was only a field goal, but the tone was exactly what you don't want in an Air Force game, right? It was your offense did nothing and then put your defense on the field when you won the toss and chose this route. I thought it was funny that then in the second half, Air Force comes right out and goes 4 and out. Actually, they did get one. Maybe they got a first down. No, I don't think so. They went 4 and out, went for it on fourth down, and get stopped. And the Lobos then score in 2 plays. So the risk you take by taking the ball in the first half when you win the coin toss and it totally backfires, totally came back and worked exactly how you'd want it to if you were the Lobos, so it didn't end up biting them too much. But what I liked was that despite that 3 and out and 9-minute drive, the tone was absolutely set for what Air Force wanted, and UNM just went from there. And I thought after that first 10, 11 minutes of the game, because 9.5 of it was an Air Force drive, after that first 10 minutes of the game, UNM, I thought, really was in control.
No, I mean, yeah, it really was. I mean, you're watching this, and it's just like you said. It's like that is exactly not how you want to play Air Force, And it kind of looked like guys were getting, frankly, I mean, like manhandled a little bit in the in the A gaps, B gaps, and all that. It was just going Air Force's way completely at that moment. And then you put together, what was that, 11 play, 75-yard drive for the offense after that.
Yeah.
And then obviously, I think it was that a 3-and-out immediately after too for Air Force following that UNM scoring drive.
I don't know if it was a 3-and-out, but I think maybe that was one they got a first down and then went 3-and-out. So 4 plays and out.
Yeah, 4-and-out. Yeah, so that was no, it was a 3-and-out. They lost 3 yards drive. Yeah. And then obviously Luke Weissong, 79 yards to the house, the punt return there. I mean, when you're getting a special team score, that's huge. And weren't totally in control there, but really, to me, that score at the end of the half, that Dampier boot, I believe, that 2-yarder, that was when it was really okay. UNM is in control here. Air Force was kind of in a position where they had to throw out a lot of things at the start of the second half, and it just melted down for them in the third quarter. And I thought UNM throughout did a lot of good defensive stuff. And then obviously another 20-point fourth quarter after that, second week in a row, they've given 20 points in the fourth quarter. The kind of answer we got regarding that was that what Bronco said was that, he felt that it's, we've talked a lot about this, right? It's the team is learning to win and it's learning, how to handle different situations and all that. He said he thinks it's a matter of the defense has to learn how to play when they're, ahead by 24 and ahead by 21 and all that. And it's not quite there yet, obviously. For UNM's sake, it was certainly good enough to get a win. But yeah,
I mean, this goes along.
But I don't think that's really the reason at this point, honestly.
Yeah, this goes along with can they close? They didn't close against Montana State, although that one we've kind of talked about was a weird game where Montana State's really good, and while they did come back because UNM was up early, it was really overall really evenly played game. The Montana State game that they lost. This one they gave up a couple touchdowns. Maybe they were tired in the fourth quarter. Maybe the offense was too. Sometimes that comes with naturally with the game, but I wouldn't say tonight to me looked like the defense was overly tired against an Air Force team that can wear a defense down. I would say I've seen some Lobo defenses get worn out by Air Force, and this didn't look like that to me in the fourth quarter, despite Air Force putting up 20 in the fourth quarter.
No, it didn't look like it to me either, and it's not at all what anybody said in the press conference either. To me, I mean, not to me. To Bronco and Christian Ellis, I mean, they basically noted it was just it's a concentration thing at that point. Just okay, you are ahead by that much, and you got plenty of room to work with. And how can you down and just kind of keep playing the way you were earlier, and just making sure you're getting that done. And then I think only one defensive penalty tonight. It was one of the unsportsmanlikes, the brandishing a weapon penalties and all that. Bronco said the two of those that he was. He did say that those two he was relatively disappointed in, not so much because of what they actually did, just because they were after the snap and they're kind of foolish there. One of them was after a score.
Let's talk about those real quick because they are worth mentioning. All season long, I have been noticing, and I told you this in a text message earlier.
Yeah.
Real quick, I'm going to throw steak sauce on here. Our friend Kevin Hendricks.
What are the Vols doing? What are the Vols?
Well, right on subject. We got steak sauce with the Go Vols. So,
they won.
Yeah,
overtime. Oh my God!
It did take overtime against Florida. And now here's more on brand for our topic of tonight. Go Lobos here. Okay. So for those who watched the game, two unsportsmanlike penalties on the Lobos, one on a defensive player, one on an offensive player, and very, I would say, uniquely specific in how they describe the penalty on the field. And it is, 15-yard penalty for brandishing a weapon. They did not technically brandish a weapon. They mimicked brandishing a weapon. And this is something I've been noticing all season long, that the secondary in particular, but I guess more Lobo players than just the secondary, when they make a big play, they kind of lift their shirt up almost like to show that they got a gun stuck in their waistband. And it's kind of I'm going to sound old and out of touch. It's probably not the best look for anything on campus, in a school related. This is college football. This is still college related. Pretending, even if it's just video game stuff, guys, it's not a good look in a college football game or a high school game. It's not a good look on national television to a lot of people who don't understand that this might be a video game reference. It is not a good look in general, and it's something that they've been doing all season, and it has not been called until tonight in a Lobo game. But that said, it's not something that just started tonight in the Lobo game either. It is something they've been trying to crack down on. You said about 2-3 weeks ago, I think there was a guy who actually did
I think it was about 2 weeks ago. It was a player. I don't know if it was a DB or a linebacker, and I think it might have been South Carolina Ole Miss. It was a South Carolina player for sure. I know that.
Yeah.
I remember exactly what game. And it went kind of semi-viral. You know, he brandished the weapon, and he brandished the hell out of that weapon from the clip that I saw.
Yeah, there have been some shotgun references, stuff like that. We do have a good question here that someone asked me earlier. Mustafa Mzil in Lobo basketball, he's certainly not the only one that after a three-pointer does a bow and arrow gesture. I have no earthly idea if bow and arrow is going to fall under this new emphasis by the NCAA to take brandishing weapons celebrations out of the game. It might. I kind of doubt it, but I think what they're really trying to crack down on is these references where people are mimicking gun shooting or, hey, look, I have a gun. I think it's pretty specific to guns, but we'll see. I'm saying that based off of I just can't imagine that they're really going to do a bow and arrow penalty, but we'll see.
I think it's pretty specific to guns too, and I didn't have time to actually read it. I did look up brandishing the weapon penalty when I was trying to find that South Carolina clip, and I did see an article that this is a concerted effort among officials in the NCAA. They do want to crack down on it. So we've seen it, in celebrations and all that, and it hasn't been a big deal. Now it will probably be a penalty going forward. So.
To your point of how Bronco referenced those in the post game, what he was upset about. He may very well be upset about specifically what they're doing, but what he said what upset him about these were post play decisions. Really, they weren't the heat of the moment penalties that we've talked about before for a team that is leading the nation in penalties. We
done penalties wise in just about every single situation, right?
Yeah, we try and put context on these penalties, right? If you're leading the nation, like, are they all just really, really stupid penalties? Well, okay, some are in the heat of the moment effort penalties. Some are just being out of position and dumb penalties.
Some are ineligibles when Devin's scrambling down the field, a couple legal formations, maybe a holding.
Quarterback teams have ineligible men downfield penalties a lot, stuff like that. What Bronco seems to be upset about in this regard is these are post-play decisions by a player to do something that has nothing to do with the play or a play, and just silly stuff that can be eliminated pretty easily. Somebody asked me during the game on X, just in a message, if I like the fact that they're not committing so many penalties this game. Is it something that Bronco emphasized during the bye week? I'll say this. It's really hard for coaches to emphasize not getting penalties. They're not coaching them to grab if it's holding or to do these gestures. So he had probably emphasized it, better than I, Sean, but I imagine Lobo coaches probably emphasized penalties about as much as they ever do. They probably emphasize concentrating and stay focused and stuff, but you don't really emphasize not committing penalties because you never really emphasize committing them. So I don't know. Is penalty something they talk about a lot in the weekly pressers?
So it was not, frankly, in the weekly pressers. I did ask him today. I said four penalties for 40 yards, right? You kind of had that swing back down to earth after a really rocky couple of games where you're breaking a school record in some capacity in every single game in terms of penalties. I think New Mexico State 170 penalty yards. That was the school record. It set a new one. And he said, really, he's like, it's not a rah-rah thing. And it's not like a huge focus. It's definitely a focus, but it's not like a rah-rah thing where I'm standing in front of the team room and I'm yelling, we can't get called for this. Like, you can't have that holding call and all that. He's like, we laid it out. These are where penalties are happening, and they're happening pretty much every facet of the game. These are what just need to be addressed at this point. I think tonight, just one defensive penalty was unsportsmanlike, so no holdings. Offensively, one illegal formation, one false start, and then that one other unsportsmanlike. So 2 unsportsmanlike after the play. Those are just decisions there. And then the illegal formation, that was pretty early. I think that was like first play of the first quarter or something like that. Not even. It was something like, it was pretty early. And then the false start in the second quarter. So I don't know. I think you're 100% right in the sense that nobody's coaching. We can't have penalties, guys. It's just kind of being addressed along the way, and this is kind of the first big step towards that. But he did note it was a little bit not shocking, but kind of kind of weird to have that swing all the way back down from 17 penalties for however many yards to just 4.
I'll point out too that, I mean, just as a basketball guy, it's at some point it's sort of like free throws. If you have a bad game or 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 games in a row where you have bad free throw shooting, a lot of people say, well, are they working on their free throws? Sometimes part of what you don't want to do as a coach is to get into your players' heads and have them thinking.
Yeah.
Thinking about things too much. It's supposed to be a reactionary game. Muscle memory is all about it. You don't want them thinking about free throws. You don't want them thinking, okay, don't grab him, and a defensive back or an offensive lineman. You don't want them always thinking. You want them naturally, instinctually reacting to what their muscle memory is and what they do in practice every day. I promise you, they don't practice penalties, committing penalties. So the hope is on game days, on Saturdays in this case, the muscle memory kicks in and you practiced your fundamentals all week, and you show that all Saturday during a game. So sometimes coaches understand and appreciate a fan's frustration with penalties, but it isn't something they want to talk to their players about an awful lot. And we've probably talked enough about penalties.
Yeah, there's only 4 tonight. We're going. We're really diving into it. But yeah,
2 of them being really unique ones, though, is really the only reason. To brandishing weapons penalties. There are plenty of New Mexico jokes that can be made there, and we will instead move on. What does this win tell us, Sean? We knew that this stretch was the winnable stretch. The first 4 games for the Lobos, probably best case scenario was ever going to be was 1-3 with the Montana State win, which they did not get. And then the winnable game started at New Mexico State. We knew Air Force was going to be a winnable game, going into the season. Maybe we didn't know Air Force was going to be this poor compared to recent year Air Force teams. But this is their winnable stretch. So while I don't think either one of us are too surprised that they won, are you surprised that they controlled it? I know it ended up being a 15-point final margin. They did cover the 7-point spread, but they were really in control of this. This was, if you the whole take the score out of the equation here, this was a pretty dominant one-sided win, I thought. And maybe that surprised me a little bit that the UNM looked as good as they did against this Air Force team.
With what I thought Air Force's offense would do against UNM's defense, I thought that 30-plus points would be a pretty darn good day for UNM's offense. I thought that was, I figured that Air Force was going to squeeze possessions a little bit more than they actually did during this game. I don't know. I mean, the offense is just, it really has not surprised, but I mean, it's just surpassed every expectation at this point. It is, we've known it's legit.
Part of the surprise,
it's really, really good point. What's up?
I was going to say, part of the surprise to me, it looks like I'm frozen. Looks like I'm frozen here.
You are on. I can hear you.
There we go. All right. Part of the surprise to me about this Lobo offense is how consistent it's been. It seems to be from start to finish in a game, they're doing what they want for the most part, and that to me maybe is a little surprising. Is it hasn't just been in flashes for the most part. This is what good offenses do. They're going to have a few 3 and outs. A really good, well polished, ranked offensive unit, a ranked team is going to have a few 3 and outs and all that. But for the most part this season, this offense is taking its punches and really kind of produced start to finish each game.
Yeah, really, with the exception of probably the Fresno State game, honestly. And maybe you could talk a little bit about the Auburn game in that regard too. They've done exactly that. What's impressing me at this point is that, they're adding good stuff. Like, they're not just doing Sol-J Maeva Peters Wildcats for the hell of it. They're getting production out of those Wildcats at this point. And that's what's really impressive to me. It's just adding on another dimension. I think at this point, Nick Trujillo obviously had the huge 21-yard gainer had a really nice catch in the sideline during the first drive, and you had heard from guys that you felt that they felt, that there was being kind of some momentum gained in regard to some of the X receivers and all that, and I think you're still kind of steadily seeing that. Obviously, coaches are pretty confident at this point in Trujillo. I think that was his first receiving TD of his career tonight as well. But it's been really impressive. And if I've said this before, if you sat through every game of that 2022 season when they had 3 passing TDs on the year, and they were one of the worst, they were probably the worst offense in the country. You deserve every second of this offense. You really do. And it's pretty cool to see it play out.
I saw. I'm trying to pull up some of these plays. I will as we talk about it. But yeah, Nick Trujillo's play on the screen and on the yard marker on the sideline, it said 3rd and 15. On the play-by-play, it says because of a penalty on the play before that it was actually 2nd and 15. Either way, it was impressive. I thought it was 3rd and 15.
I thought it was 3rd and 15 as well. That's what it was in the stadium.
Yeah, the play, regardless, he caught the ball, so it would have been a first down on 2nd or 3rd down. But anyway, regardless, it was a great catch, and this is what was so big about that catch. I mentioned earlier, you win the coin toss and you go 3 and out, and then give up a 9.5-minute drive. This would have been UNM going 4 and out because I think they did get 1 first down, and basically falling right into even worse, what Air Force wants, to wear out your defense. Things could have been a whole lot different if Nick Trujillo doesn't stab at that ball in the air, kind of tips it to himself a little bit and comes down with the first down catch. On that drive, they go down and score. But things could have been a whole lot different had he not come up with that catch. I thought this was probably, he's had some good moments, but I thought this was probably Nick Trujillo's best game.
They gave up, I think it was 2. You could maybe argue, what he came with 2 catches against New Mexico State, but there are some pretty good ones, honestly. They set him right in scoring position, or at least very close. Well, I don't know. I'm relitigating it. I thought the blocking was pretty good tonight as well. They did give up finally 1 sack. I think it was a kind of Devin I think this was more on Devin than the offensive line, and I'm not just saying that to keep that narrative alive and all that, but I thought the blocking was pretty good for the most part. And I wrote about it this week in a big, long story about Famika and I, the offensive line coach, and how he kind of rebuilt the offensive line. I don't think it could be overstated just how impressive it's been. Year 1 offensive lines built through the transfer portal are usually not this successful. And, even San Jose State, good offense, and they've done a lot of great things. They did lose today to Colorado State. That offensive line is – Air Force ran through them like Swiss cheese, frankly, when they played them, and San Jose State took the win. That did not happen today. There were some flares and all that, but I think that's probably the most impressive thing to me at this point.
I promise you, I am trying to pull up Nick Trujillo's catch here, and the video is just getting chopped up here. But here we go. There we go.
Yeah, just huge catch, right?
I'll have it play while we talk over him a little bit here, but so it does say they're 3rd and 15. I thought he was impressive. Luke Weissong caught a couple key catches early in the first quarter, and then obviously his punt return was he was due, right? He's been so good this year as a receiver. I kind of thought he might break one on special teams at some point, and he did. And good for him. I thought Luke Weissong had another really good game.
Yeah, I think he did too. And I'll add another thing on the offense too. I did like it's been good throughout the season. I think they could have gone to it a little bit more in certain spots. I like the overall the design QB runs. I thought they were pulled in good spots, particularly that first drive, back-to-back QB design runs. I thought they just pulled them in a good spot. It just seems like it's in a really good rhythm in terms of, for the most part tonight. There was a couple points where things were a little out of sync, but at that point, they had a massive lead, and were just, able to not quite coast, but, figure some things out there. But I felt, play calling, all that was in a really good rhythm. They went to things that worked more often than not. And it's just been really impressive to see play out at this point. I don't know if I've ever covered an offense that has just kind of continually taken step by step to be this dangerous at this point of the season.
I'm a step behind you with just now getting to the punt return. But yeah, this what my point to you earlier about I think maybe what's most surprising to me about the offense is, as you said, they keep adding things, which is impressive. To me, it's that this is a first year coaching staff. They look like they look like an Air Force team that's a bunch of seniors that have been together for 2 or 3 years. This is an offensive line that just came together this year for the first time, right?
None of them had ever played a snap together.
Yeah.
I mean, it never happened.
And offensively, again, we'll get to the defense too. The defense still has a whole lot of issues, but offensively, this looks like a unit that's been together for a really long time, and it's been fun to watch. And Luke Weissong's a big part of it, and his punt return there is part of that. I'm going to get to some of these comments, and then we'll kind of go back to some of our points that we want to make during the game. We have somebody here. This goes back to what we were talking about earlier. I did not see the brandishing be called elsewhere today. I don't know that I saw it called elsewhere today either, but I do know it has been called. And Sean talked about it earlier about the first reference to it when that one player just 2 weeks ago did it. I think South Carolina had a game when they did it. Well, anyway, I won't try and guess. But it has been called. It is now a point of emphasis. The fact that it was called twice in this game was a little surprising, but I guarantee you this: I'll bet you the Lobos don't do that a whole lot more the rest of the season. Like it or not, that's probably what the point is, right? You penalize them to try and get it out of the game. So, regular injury questions. I'll let you say it like you do every show. We don't exactly get a whole lot of injury news out of Bronco. We do have, did we come out today okay with injuries? We also have how's the injury to number 18? And then Juan Rodriguez follows that up with he was flying all over the field today. What do you know about any injuries in general today?
I will add before we get into the injuries, I knew it was another team, Minnesota. They last week they got called for the brandishing the weapon penalties, and there was a pretty not making light of the penalties and the content of the penalties. It was a pretty funny press conference clip from a couple players talking about it at that point. But injuries, we usually don't get a lot. Gabe Lopez, I know there's a comment in there somewhere. I think G-Wade, you had it. Gabe Lopez did not play for the second straight game. I don't know what the injury is. Didn't see him warm up. Didn't really see him anywhere on the field, honestly. I was having a really hard time with that. But he didn't play. He missed today. Antonio Harris picked up the start in his place. Bobby Arnold went down. Bobby Arnold was out for, I think, 3 or 2 games. I don't remember if he got injured in the Auburn game or not. I think he might have. He made his return today. He was actually playing really well. And then on that Bruin Fleischman, that 43-yard, gainer down the field and all that, he got injured in some capacity on that. He did not play another snap the rest of the game. I'm about 99% sure on that. We don't have any updates on him. Tyler Keeney did not play as well on the defensive line. I don't know what the deal there is either. But Kyler Drake and Devin Branapps, Kyler played 3 snaps against New Mexico State, and Devin Branapps missed the New Mexico State game entirely. They played a lot of snaps today against Air Force. That is kind of my injury read. And in terms of 18, Cam Watts, I believe, is what you're talking about.
Cornerback. Yeah.
I don't even know if I saw him. This is also his first game back, I think, after missing the last 2. I don't even know if I saw the play where he got injured. So I didn't ask that question in the post-game press conference. That's my bad. But we'll definitely try and get an update, or a further update, I should say, on Monday.
Yeah, Cam Watts, as Juan Rodriguez says, he was flying all over the field. Looking at his defensive stats, 4 tackles, 3 solo tackles. He had 1 tackle for loss. So, yeah, I mean, very good game for a cornerback, obviously. And, it will – when we know, when Sean knows about the injury.
I'll add as well, I think UNM has like 5 linebackers right now. I think they have like 5 healthy, fully playable linebackers. That's what I saw during warmups. Mahalo Santoreneos, I don't think he played against New Mexico State, but I know he was healthy. I remember seeing him warm up. He's on crutches. I don't know what the thing is there. And maybe let me look up the snap count to see if he did play against New Mexico State, but I don't remember him going down with an injury at all against New Mexico State. I don't know if it would be a practice thing or something else, but he looks like he is out for the foreseeable future. And Tavian Combs did not dress today. Didn't play, obviously. I don't have any further updates in the timetable there. We have not gotten one timetable officially on when he may or may not return.
All right, so we're looking at the schedule here because I'm about to throw on Lobo Fish comment. Lobos are on a winning streak. They are already at 2 in a row. I suppose 2 can be a streak, can't it?
First time since 2021 they've won back-to-back games.
And such a great feeling. Go Lobos. I'll use that as a way to jump into what I was referencing earlier. We kind of knew this was going to be a winnable stretch of their season.
Do you want to tackle the defense first before we talk about the closing stretch? Do you want to cover that?
Absolutely. Let's
throw you off. I think like this would be a better to probably close it. All right.
Yep, I'm gonna pull up the stats. We'll go defense.
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm wonderful. I'm pulling up the stats. Hold on.
All right.
Okay. So look, the defense. As we've talked about all season, what you talked with Brett Brigham in a pregame podcast this past week. Lobo offense is good. Lobo defense is not very good. Air Force offense is not very good. It was a bad offense against a bad defense. Same as the New Mexico State game, frankly. New Mexico State's offense, not very good. Still was able to put up 40 points against the Lobos. Air Force's offense, very bad this season, frankly, and put up 37 points. As excited as everyone is, and in Lobo country, you should be excited because this doesn't happen that often where you're starting to feel positive about back-to-back wins and a conference win and that kind of stuff. The reality is these were 2 really bad offenses that put up in consecutive games. I know there was a bye week in between, so it wasn't consecutive weeks, but in consecutive games, just put up 77 points. And the 37 points that Air Force scored today was more than they had scored combined in all their FBS games this season. I don't know what they put up in their game against an FCS opponent, but 21. So this 37, Air Force has not done even close to that in an FBS game all year, and it's not a good sign. But as I alluded earlier, I will give the Lobos some credit. When you're up big in a game, I'm not going to hammer too much on the fact that the other team kind of started to look like they were coming back late. Sometimes that happens, and you don't want to overreact to it because I think Lobo fans in the past overreacted when the Lobos would be that team losing by 30 or 40, and then you tack on 2 touchdowns late, and you're like, okay, we have something to build on. No, that's what the team that's losing that gets blown out often says. But there's no hiding the fact that this Lobo defense hasn't solved its issues.
Oh man. I mean, yeah.
37 points to Air Force.
I know. It's weird, right? Because you're like, and I'm saying this like not trying to see sunshine in a pit or something like that, right? Like you're trying to think about this like in like what are we seeing on a week-to-week basis? And it was a little funny. Christian Ellis did say you look at the point totals, man. I mean, like they kind of have gone down week by week, and they did go down this week, 40-37.
True. I'll tell you what, I think he played good. I think he's been playing fine. Like
he played very well tonight. I think
I think there's good individual performances on the defense. I don't know that the defense has really had a great team effort yet.
The problem right now at this point, so big plays were killing them at the start of the season.
Sure.
I don't have the big plays counter in front of me. I'll pull that up right now for Air Force. Air Force entered this offense as one of the least explosive offense in the Mountain West and one of the least explosive offenses in the country.
I'm pulling it up.
Really struggled to do that. I just got it up right now. Today, an explosive passing play. They hit on 4 for 137 yards gained. One of 43, 24, 31, and 39. So explosive plays, very much. And then rushing plays, explosives, so 10 or more yards. They hit on 8 for 162 yards gained, 16, 30, 13, 20, 12, 18, 42, 11. So, yeah, it's not encouraging that you're giving up that number of plays to this Air Force offense. But
8 rushing big plays against Air Force, maybe a little. Well, it's still not a good number, but it's Air Force because the way they run and Air Force is going to have a lot of big plays on rushing, bet more so than a lot of other teams.
For sure, for sure, but they really hadn't to this point. And then, I would be shocked if this was not the like their best passing game overall, honestly. So I think that's bring up a certain level of concern. It's weird to gauge, man, because like you do kind of see where they are making progress to a certain degree. They have kind of tampered down, and this is not a great, I'd say, it's tampered down a little bit on some of the explosive plays, giving them up, I should say. And like, today was, I think, probably encouraging in the sense that third quarter, I mean, they kind of seized it with the defense at that point. They gave the offense short fields to work with, and that's big. You can't discount that in the slightest. But I tweeted out like the final score, and I said, offense was sensational, defense not so much. And I went back to it and I kind of amended it and said, like, the defense did do some nice things. It's just a really rocky finish, and I don't know. I don't know, how hurt you can be by the supposed lack of concentration there. But at the same time, it also seems like it could be something that could be addressed, as opposed to just they don't have the players to hang around, to get that done. I don't know. It's weird, man. Like I don't know which way to go with this defense. Like I got to rewatch this game and I got to think about it a little bit more. But it's a weird spot. I think they absolutely can get better. I think the most glaring thing to me probably overall is just like, they're at a point where they don't bring pressure. They don't execute pressure well enough, to the point where they just don't, they're just not calling a lot of blitzes and they're just not bringing as much pressure as I think that, defensive coordinator Nick Howell and honestly Bronco are used to at this point.
There's a comment that didn't come in through the comments I can pull up on the screen that is related to defense, and it's directed at you specifically. But so let me just read it. It's from Jeffrey Wells. Sean, I'll probably need to go back and look, but did the D run many twos in the fourth quarter? Were they, how many backups were in that fourth quarter when Air Force scored 20? At some position groups, obviously not a lot because they just don't have a whole lot left. So there were some starters in all the way through, but it is a fair question. How many, that fourth quarter defense that gave up 20 points or whatever it was, what were we looking at in terms of their number one starting kind of unit? Were there a bunch of backups in?
I think it was linebackers, starters trying to close. I'm pretty sure it was they were rotating on the defensive line, but it was most of the group that they had been playing the entire game. And that's not a crazy deep position at this point either. I would have to go back and look at the secondary, though. I'm not entirely sure on the secondary. I do think it was more ones, honestly. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it was I would have to go back and look. That's a good question.
Again, reading through these comments that are on my social media feed that aren't in the show. TX Lobo 95. This goes back to something we already talked about, but I try and share everyone's comments. So when is coach going to start holding players accountable for unsportsmanlike penalties that extend drives for opponents, resulting in giving up points? Tonight it cost us a touchdown. One of those brandishing a weapon penalties that we talked about earlier did help extend a drive that cost the Lobos a touchdown. And that's true. It is, the timing of the penalties isn't great. This was one of the best overall penalty games of the season, probably since that Montana State game when I made the infamous comment about, wow, this team was horrible at penalties last year, and look how good they are at not committing many penalties now. So anyway, that's a comment that is appearing online. Most points, somebody here, Josh Shell, points out most points Air Force has scored versus an FBS team was 19. If UNM had just an average ranked defense, they'd absolutely be a bowl team.
It's kind of a flip-flop from not even a flip-flop. No, I mean, it's basically the same thing as last year, right? Where if the defense was at an average level and kind of, produced takeaways at an average level, that could have been a bowl team in some regard too.
Right. I mean, it is what it is, right? The Lobos are making progress. Overall, I'd say this is a better team than in recent years because the offense is so much better. The defense didn't make the same strides, but yeah, there's no denying the defense is the weak part of this team. That's just the way it is. One other comment here. Oh no, that's about my GIF. Somebody, Bill Bradley, former sports editor of the Las Vegas Review Journal, says your GIF. I did tweet something earlier about the Lobos getting a 50 burger in back-to-back games for the first time since 1916, and I had a GIF of Jules from Pulp Fiction, Samuel L. Jackson character eating a hamburger, and he says your GIF reminds me that we should just call the brandishing weapon penalty the Royale with cheese. People will know the infraction.
The Jules Winnefeld penalty.
There we go. I like it. So anyway, we're digressing. Anything else on the defense to sort of put a bow on comments on the defense? To me, I'll say this about the defense is I still don't think it's very good. I know there's some injury issues, and they're kind of in a spot now where I don't know what they're supposed to do. Should they convert to a completely bend but don't break kind of approach? Should they?
They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't. I mean,
should they take more risks? Should they be blitzing more? Should they be? What do you think? Do they just stick with what they're doing, which isn't working, or do they go away from what they want to be their identity on defense and take either more risks or be more conservative? Like, what is there something they should try and change?
I don't think it's a scheme thing. I don't think you're in a position midway through the season to just scrap the scheme, honestly. And I don't think, and it's midway through the season of year one, you're not going to abandon the scheme. That's just not going to happen at that point. No matter.
People will point out though that if the defense is the weak point, why wouldn't you? If it hasn't been a strong point and you're at the midway point, why wouldn't you try something different?
That's a question. Frankly, that's a question I can and probably should ask. Honestly, at the Monday presser, just kind of how they view that and if they've done it before.
If they're, I don't think you do. By the way, I actually kind of posed that, but I don't think that's what they should do.
And I was being probably overly dismissive. I just truly, like, from everything I've heard from this coaching staff, I don't think they will do that or really.
Yeah, they have an identity of what they want, right? They have a vision of what they want, and they're kind of for better or worse, they're going to kind of stick with that, right? Anyway,
well, and it's also, look, it's not like the rigidness of, like, you're Mike Leach coming into Texas Tech and you want to run the air raid and you're only going to run the air raid and that's going to be it. And if your first season sucks, it's whatever. We're not changing anything. We just need to get the players in place to run the air raid. What they've said throughout is that, like, this is the defense that fits the players that we have and it fits the roster that we have defensively. We catered it to them and this is how it's going to go. Maybe because you've been down some guys and all that, you could shift some things up in that sense, but I don't think they're going to scrap it with the roster that they have. It's built around what they have in the roster. So I don't know.
Richie on YouTube says the defense is what it is. We thankfully have the offense to counteract that most times, and I think that's right. That's sort of where we're at. A year ago, it was the other way around. It kind of comes in ebbs and flows a little bit. You hope to have a good unit on both sides of the ball at some point, and it could happen this year. I mean, like I said, there's some individual talent on that defense. It's not like there isn't some talent and some capability there. Again, this is DJK on YouTube 2816. Hobos got lucky. Air Force played 16-year-old recruits. Laugh at Lobos. Okay, I guarantee you they weren't playing 16-year-olds today. Not allowed to, unless there's a whole bunch of Doogie Housers out there that are already in college and out of the prep school at Air Force. Air Force was not actually playing a bunch of 16-year-olds, and guess what? Air Force hasn't been good all year. So the fact that the Air Force or that a good UNM team beat them shouldn't be a surprise. They were favored by 7, so might be hard for some people to accept. But maybe the Lobos just aren't as bad as some people think. I know I texted you a week ago and then 2 weeks ago too when somebody on a local radio station here was saying he was looking at their schedule and could not see where the Lobos would get a single win all season long, and he pulled his telescope out and couldn't see a single win on the schedule. And I'm like, do you watch the games? This Lobo team, I still don't think is going to a bowl game and getting to 6 wins, but to say this Lobo team wasn't going to win a game is just ridiculous. They're clearly better than several teams that are on their schedule, and they were better than the last 2 they just beat.
To DJK's 2816's credit, I think they actually, the last time they did this, I think they actually were playing 16-year-olds. I'm pretty sure that actually was the case in terms of scoring 50 points back to back in 1916. I'm pretty sure they actually were playing 16-year-olds. The DGK, I mean, maybe
that's what he's going after. I got you.
Maybe he's thinking of 1916. So, look, it's over 100 years ago, but I get it. I do.
I will say this also on YouTube. DJK also put this comment on, and I don't know exactly which one he meant. So in this one, he's saying they were playing 27-year-old recruits. So I don't know if Air Force had a bunch of 27-year-olds out there or a bunch of 16-year-olds out there. But thank you, DJK, for your participation. And thank you all for your participation with your comments and your questions.
Again, DJK, 28-16. I think he's got a point there, too. UNM has a 29-year-old on the team in Colby Brewer. The only one, but they do have one. He did not play a snap tonight, by the way. But, yeah, so, look, just to close in the defense, Richie, I think you summed it up perfectly. It is what it is, but I think it can get better in terms of overall execution. I think the point totals can go down gradually. I don't think they're going to come out against – I mean, honestly, maybe I was about to say I don't think they're going to come out against Utah State and really make a statement there and hold them to 10 points. But that Utah State offense is really rough. So yeah, I don't know if you could totally write that out, write that possibility off. But yeah, I at a certain point, you are what you are. And right now, halfway through the season, they're a defense that is kind of steadily improving, but not quite to the level of what the offense is doing on a week-to-week basis. So that's probably enough reason to temper any expectations down the stretch, but also this offense, I mean, it can carry in some ways. And I don't know, it's a hard thing to marry. The reality of the defense does do nice things. They do come up with some key fourth down stops, some key third down stops, give the offense some short fields every now and then, and take the ball away more than they did, at least compared to last year. And also just have these big fourth quarter swings. If they find a way to eliminate that and kind of take better care of the big plays, then I dare I say this team could be really interesting down the stretch, and I think we'll get to that in a little bit.
On the Albuquerque Journal website right now, Rick Wright, our columnist, has a story that's already a column that's already posted with the headline: "Did the Lobos' victory over the Falcons have to be that entertaining?" Ask the defense. And you can go to abqjournal.com right now and see the great Rick Wright basically give his take, his takeaway on what happened with the defense and this game. And Rick Wright, like only Rick Wright can, has covered this team longer than some of us have been around. Some of us on this show have been around. I think I was at least born, but when he started covering Lobo athletics, but Sean certainly was not. So go take a look at it. abqjournal.com is where you can get Sean's post-game story, and you can also get this Rick Wright column about the Lobo defense. And I think it's worth understanding that you don't just stop talking about it because it is what it is, as we've said.
Yeah.
But you can't just harp on it every week. And that this is Richie Flores has another comment about that. At some point, you just have to enjoy the wins when you get them. His comment is enjoy the wins when you get them, especially with how UNM usually was in past years. It was nice to listen to this while working. Good mood. So it's true. Like if you're a Lobo fan, you want to nitpick the wins after the past several years? Probably not. But you got to be honest, and the honesty of the reality of this team is the defense still needs some work.
Well, I think the flip side of it too. I mean, like, yeah, I think it is fair to nitpick it because I mean, like, there's coaches and players going in nitpicking it too, and they're not content, obviously, throwing up 37 points. You're allowing 37 points and all that. And they've made it clear. I think Bronco even said tonight, we do hold ourselves to a higher standard. And I'm certainly absolutely, if he wasn't talking about it in that moment, he certainly is thinking about the defense in some regard there too.
You don't ask people to buy in and invest their time and their Saturdays, and then just say, but our defense you can't talk about. I mean, it is what it is. You don't have to harp on it, but it is part of this team. And we probably don't have to go over it all the time, but yeah, it's worth pointing out, especially when the team itself is pointing it out. Jazz is asking here, I heard Eddie Nunez was at the game today. I'll throw it up there. Any particular reason why? I don't know that he was. I know he is still here. His wife and kids are still here. They didn't just up and leave that quickly, to my knowledge. So there's still some moving going on. So I wouldn't be shocked if he was here. But no, I didn't know Eddie was here. I talked to Eddie this week. We were texting just 2 days ago about some stuff, and he did not tell me he was coming. Not that he has to. I don't know that he would tell me like, "Hey, Geoff, I'm coming to town." So I don't know if he was there or not. Can't answer you there.
He was there. He was yes. He was there. He was on the sideline. He was talking with Garnett Stokes for a little bit, talking with Dave Williams for a little bit. I did not see him. I would have absolutely asked him, and I didn't really see anybody that after the game that I think would have had an answer to why he was there. So I don't know for sure, but Geoff, I think you laid it out there. I mean, like, coaches and ADs and all that, sometimes when they take a new job, they just don't, rip everything out and keep going. Sometimes it's an elongated month, couple months long move. And I think that's kind of what's going on here.
Along those lines too, this past week, I wrote about the contract that UNM did sign with Parker Executive Search. National search is going on. Applications for the new AD spot, the vacant AD position, are being accepted until October 25th. There is a search committee formed. The President Garnett Stokes, UNM President Garnett Stokes, did put out a campus-wide email just yesterday, just Friday morning, basically giving her vision of how important this job is, not just for athletics, but for the whole university, because it is as we call it, she didn't use this term, but the front porch kind of aspect of college athletics. It does help the community form an identity or a vision or an impression of the university, and she's very aware of that. So new AD search is ongoing and is, in her estimation, a very important one to the university. So within a month, I think there'll be a hire made after some interviews in probably about 3 or 4 weeks. By the end of November, I should say, is when I think they'll come up with the decision, and the new AD, I think, is expected in early January to start. Probably be named in early December, maybe late November, and then start the position in January of 2025. And there we go. There's my off-topic rant there. What else? What do you want to go to now on this Lobo football game, or what's coming up?
Let's talk about this stretch run. You pulled it up earlier. I kind of rudely cut you off and asked to talk about the defense, but I think we can close on the stretch run and kind of get to that and kind of get the names there.
I am pulling it up now. There we go. So I'll set it up again, kind of like how we have really all season, and people saw this before the season. The schedule plays out as such that let me not squeeze it that. There we go. The schedule plays out that the first 4 games, right there, Montana State, again, FCS school, yes, based on where UNM has been for 5 years plus. You shouldn't have a blind expectation to beat an FCS school in Montana State that is 6-0 coming into tonight's game against Idaho and ranked 3rd in the country in FCS. They've not lost a game. They are very good. They could be the best FCS school. I'll check their score here in a second, see if they're still undefeated. Then you play Arizona and Auburn, and you do good things offensively against them. You play Fresno State. You do okay. That's probably the worst game. But that first 4 games, UNM went 0-4. I think that probably should have been expected. In terms of point spreads, they were double-digit underdogs in all 4 of those games, so that shouldn't be a huge surprise. But maybe 1-3 is what some fans wanted out of that. Didn't get it, but okay. And then the next stretch of games, though. New Mexico State and Air Force both end up being wins, which we knew they could be, and the Lobos did go ahead and win those 2 games. Let's look at these next. What do you want to go, 3 or 4? Let's go these next 4. Utah State. Go ahead.
Yeah, Utah State. Well, actually, let me throw this in. Montana State is still undefeated, and they're up 30-0 on a pretty darn good Idaho team that beat Wyoming earlier this year as well. So, and not a very good Wyoming team, but still winning on the road against an FCS opponent, very impressive and all that. Utah State next week, they are coming off a soul-crushing 50 to 31. 50 to 34 loss.
34, yeah, they ended up covering, and that's sort of like what Air Force did tonight. Is they were getting destroyed. It was 41-7 at halftime.
That was way worse than what happened tonight. That was
but point being, a lot of the points came late when,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not, the other team takes their foot off the pedal a little bit, and that it just happened. The final score against UNLV was not indicative of the dominance UNLV had in that game. So, Utah State looked awful against UNLV, and they're trying to build on some late scores. I think, we've gone through the stretch before, and we said winnable games, right? We called Utah State a winnable game. What do you think now?
I think that is, I think they win off of everything that's seen from New Mexico to this point, and Utah State to this point. Utah State, it's really messy, and they're not in a great situation in the sense that obviously you had stuff that went down to Blake Anderson and Nate Dryland becoming the interim. It's just there's talent on that team, and it's not being used in any cohesive manner, offensively and defensively. The quarterback issues, it's just not there. They really might be the worst team in the Mountain West at this point, in the sense that they're 1-5. Air Force is 1-5 too, but at the very least, I think Air Force has a couple things they do okay, not great, but like okay, they can kind of hang their hat on. I don't know. And Wyoming, I think they can hang their hat on some things as well, even with the same record too. But yeah,
Wyoming and San Diego State played today, and it came down to a last-minute field goal. I don't think either one of those two teams is particularly good. I think in this next 4-game stretch, you look, at some point you got to beat Colorado State if you're UNM. Just, it's a ridiculous kind of history UNM has head-to-head with Colorado State in a decade that Colorado State hasn't been very good. I would say the Lobos go 3-1 in this next stretch of 4 games. And if you're, listen, think about what that means though. If they really do go 3-1 in this 4-game stretch, they're going to have 5 wins going into the final 2 games of the season.
You're saying it. I'm not. You're saying it. We're having the conversation right now. Capital T, capital the, like capital C conversation. We're having it right now. We're just getting right into it. Like, this is.
I'm telling you, I think they go 3-1 in this 4-game stretch. Well, shoot, they just won 2 in a row. That would mean I'm predicting they would go 5-1 in a 6-game stretch. That's a little beyond what I want to comfortably say in the big picture. You can go game by game. I'm really big into analytics and probabilities when it comes to sports and all that kind of stuff. It's hard to go 5-1 in a 6-game stretch.
I had no idea Colorado State had won 12 in a row over New Mexico. I had no idea that streak was there.
Colorado State has been awful.
Yeah, good. And like, not like New Mexico's been amazing that whole stretch either, but they had good teams.
But even when New Mexico under Bob Davie was going to bowl games, Colorado State was still beating them.
Okay, so look, I think that UNM beats Utah State. All right, so then you're at 3-4, and all of a sudden things are a little bit interesting. I think they go to Fort Collins, and I think Colorado State wins, if only for the fact that I'm holding all this Colorado State stock, and I don't know what to do with it. Talk to a broker. He said just keep it. I don't know. We'll figure that out, right? Okay, so 3-5, and then you got Wyoming at home and San Diego State on the road. I think they split those. I think they do.
Okay. So let's say 2-2 then. Yeah. In this 4-game stretch, so 4 wins. You're then talking about a final 2-game stretch of Washington State at home, a Washington State team that should be favored and will be favored, and is a better team than UNM in my estimation right now. But it is in Albuquerque, and it is with the Lobos having something to play for. And Washington State did not look dominant today. They did win, though, against a team that was fairly dominant against UNM. So Washington State probably wins that game, and then Hawaii might be for win number 5, which won't get you to a bowl game. But I'll tell you what, if they sneak in a 3-1 in these next 4, and they only have to go 1-1 in Washington State and Hawaii.
Yeah, I think like San Diego State will still be a favorite in that game at Snapdragon, but like there's nothing I've seen from San Diego State at this point, and it's tough though because we're talking about we're now talking in the context of New Mexico playing San Diego State, and maybe San Diego State's more of an offensive groove than they have been to start the season, and maybe UNM's defense just hasn't addressed some of the problems in the way that they might have hoped. So I don't know. I think that is a game that they could absolutely steal for sure.
We gave Montana State a fight, just saying UNM has some serious fight in them, so we're not going to be outplayed. I'll tell you what, man. The over-under for wins this season for the Lobos was 2.5, right? Opened it initially at 1.5.
Yeah.
They're at 2 wins, and if they get to 3, they over hit the over on Vegas's play. I do think they'll get to 3. So I never thought they were going to get to a bowl game, but man, how frustrating is that Montana State opening day loss going to be when they led the entire game until 10 seconds left in the 59th minute and 50 seconds, and they give up the lead with 10 seconds remaining and lose to a really good Montana State team, and could have got to 6 wins. So I don't think they get to 6 wins, but I'm actually being way more optimistic than I've ever been about Lobo football, thinking they're gonna probably get to 5 with what they have left.
I don't think that they get to 6 wins either, but the fact that we're at a point now in year 1 with the defense that it just kind of is what it is at this point, and that we can have this conversation to a certain degree, like, hey, things get kind of interesting down the stretch if a couple things happen, and maybe you steal one, and maybe you get lucky somewhere. Yeah, like I think that's pretty impressive, right? And it is directly related to how the schedule shook out this year for sure. But I don't know. Yeah, Nicholas, I'm happy to have a post-game show too. I would have just been in my apartment talking to myself, doing all this.
Thank you for saying that, Nicholas. I will give everyone a quick look at what some other thoughts about some Mountain West schools are. Wavy, 2 E's there, so I'm going to say Wavy as opposed to just Wave. Says Air Force sucks. They have this is not their best version of themselves, that's for sure.
They're not a very good football team. We can't talk about the troops like that. Like the troops suck.
I will say this: the Lobos have been that team for a while, and there's no apologies needed from any Lobo fan who's like, okay, Air Force sucks and we beat them. Like that's what you're supposed to do. So there we go with that. R. Thompson 1050, who I think is Ricky Thompson. Hawaii is hanging with Boise. Hawaii's not the worst team in this league, I'll tell you that. Preseason poll showed Nevada in 12th, UNM in 11th, and I believe Hawaii in 10th, right?
Yeah, and I'm also holding a lot of Rainbow Warriors stock too. So based on how I voted for them in the preseason poll. And
so those who don't know, Nevada beat Oregon State today.
Yeah. Can we go through Mountain West scores real quick?
I'm pulling them up. I'm pulling them up now. So look, this Mountain West isn't as good as it's been. This is not the best year of
very
Mountain West
top
football.
Heavy. Very top heavy.
Like 2-team top heavy, maybe. I do think Fresno State and San Jose State both are solid teams. If you're just looking at the conference as a whole, you'd consider them in an average year or in any year solid kind of teams. But there's really 2 teams that are really good, and then there's a gap after UNLV and Boise State. I am pulling up the scores right now. When people say, or UNM, UNM's not that good. I'm telling you, there are some teams in the Mountain West that aren't that good either, and UNM has a chance to get some wins against them. So there you are. That's the reality of the Mountain West this year. Is there are more than a few teams that aren't necessarily all that good, and the Lobos get to benefit from the fact that they do not play UNLV this year. They do not play Boise State this year, and they have a chance. They have a chance to get to 6 wins, partly because of their schedule, and they will not apologize if that's the reason they end up getting there. So here are the scores from today. There's only one game still going on. Obviously, New Mexico 52-37 over Air Force. We've been talking about that for an hour now. The one game going on right now, Boise State. This is in the second quarter, late in the second quarter, about halftime, 13-7. That's a 1-score game with Hawaii having that possession in the final 30 seconds of the first half, final minute, I should say, of the first half. Then the other Mountain West scores on your screen there, but I'll read through them anyway. Washington State, 1-score win over Fresno State on the road. That's a 1-touchdown game. They also had an overtime win over San Jose State. That was a 1-score kind of game. So Washington State's not, far and away better than these Mountain West teams that they've played thus far. Nevada 42-37 over Oregon State. Nevada's a lot better than people thought. and putting up 42.
I don't think Oregon State was as good as their record. I'll say that. But yeah, like
I agree with you. I don't think Oregon State's necessarily that good.
What Geoff Choate is doing in Nevada, I've like waxed poetic about it, or like on previous episodes and all that. But yeah, it's insanely impressive given where that roster was.
Colorado State 31-24 over San Jose State, a one-score win there. A little surprising to me. I thought San Jose State was going to win that game, to be honest. I would have picked them if I was picking games. I will, even after the fact, admit that I would have got that one wrong because I thought San Jose State was kind of in a spot where I just thought they would win that game.
I didn't come out and throw my hat in and say, guys, I think Colorado State's going to beat San Jose State or whatever. I think that's what's going to happen. But no, I don't know. In terms of like watching back like some San Jose State games during the bye week and kind of leading to this game, particularly the Air Force game, impressive in some regards, but they do have some glaring issues, especially on the offensive line. And I don't think
I just watched Colorado State and UTEP a few weeks back and just remember thinking, I do not think this is a good Colorado State team. And maybe I shouldn't put so much into one exposure to them. Maybe they're better than I.
They weren't good to start the year, and I think we kind of even expected. I don't think maybe we expected Texas to be in the position where they're the number one. Where they are. Well, we'll see if they're the number one team tomorrow, but where they are, where they are. But at the same time, I mean, them not putting up basically any whatsoever. I think that was certainly concerning news.
The other two scores I'll quickly run through. San Diego State, again, late field goal to beat Wyoming in Laramie. First time they played in Laramie since 2016. San Diego State having to go to Laramie, where I don't know if you know this, but 7,200 feet. There are some elevation issues that San Diego State does not really like having to deal with when they go to Laramie. And then Friday night's game, UNLV did beat Utah State as a 19-point favorite. They won by 16, 50-34. That was a classic for bettors out there. That was what they would call a backdoor cover for Utah State. UNLV was dominant. I believe it was 41-7 at halftime. They were dominating that whole game. Utah State snuck in at the very end to cover that point spread. But there you have it. There's what's going on with the Mountain West right now. Got another theme that we're touching on earlier. Enjoy the damn win. Our first against Air Force in 6 games, and that's totally fair. You break down a game and get nitpicky about defense and all that kind of stuff after a win. Some people just don't want to hear it, and I don't think that's what Jimmy H is necessarily saying. But the defense is the weak point. The offense is great in my mind, and the win is, at the end of the day, I guess what matters, right? And they got it. So there you go. The Lobos are doing pretty good in my estimation.
Yeah, back-to-back wins for the first time since 2021. First win against Air Force in 5 games. I think that was the number that I had in the story. The offense is good. The defense, it is what it is until it isn't, and we'll see if that changes. But yeah.
What's you're going to the Utah State game is a Saturday game, right? It's also on True TV or TNT Sports. I know they were advertising it today. I will before we go, you were not privy to this since you were in the press box. But I'm gonna show a couple clips before we let you go, Sean. It is an hour and 15 minutes. I appreciate it, Sean, and for everybody that's watching or still listening. But there were a couple things on the broadcast, Sean, that I want you to be aware of. And one of them was, first of all, the was it JB Long? I think was JT or JB. Sorry. But he was the play-by-play guy for TNT Sports. Mike Golick Jr. was the Gojo was the analyst, and Bridget Howard of, that is not the right clip. Bridget Howard formerly of Mountain West Network fame, been working for several years, I think 3 years at least, for the Mountain West Conference. She's now working for TNT Sports, among other things, was a sideline reporter. I thought they did a great job. I actually think the True TV coverage and the TNT Sports coverage this year has been really good. During the point when it looked like it was going to be a blowout for the Lobos in the third quarter, the pros on the call basically had to deal with the cotton candy kid and find something else to talk about And this will be Sean's first time seeing this, I believe. So here we go.
Go look, if your telestrator is working, now's the time. Get ready for some halftime snacking.
That's huge, man. It's unreal.
You know, all that action. You got a lot of height. You got great depth. Look at all this. Going out of the frame. That's at least a 4.5 foot, maybe a 5 foot tall tower of cotton candy that young man is putting in work on. Let the big dog eat. Next commercial break.
Let the big dog eat.
Depleted.
So then later in the game, they come back to the commercial.
The crash coming down off that sugar high. I know from experience, dude.
That's nuts. That's absurd.
Right there.
Oh, it's not over just yet.
Difficult, unwieldy beast. I know a lot of talk about the Texas
Good
State.
for that kid. That's actually like that's sick.
Well, but the aerated snacks, part of that dumping sugar into your body that's such a fun affair. He's making it look easy right now. It's a pro. I think he had intentions to share, but then once he got the camera on him, he realized that this was a solo act. Ready for his moment. In the end zone.
Okay, so this is later in the game.
What Bridget is up to.
Yeah, you guys showed Andy on the screen, and I'm a magnet to sweets, right? I'm here with Carlos, who just got himself this nice cotton candy treat. To put it in perspective for you, I'm 5'2", so I know I'm not that tall, but I mean, this thing is pretty tall right here. And we've got even more cotton candy. These kids are gonna be on a sugar high, I think. Carlos, can I have some of this cotton candy? Can I have a bite?
Oh, there we go. Get it on the action. That's gonna be 10 feet of cotton candy. That's insane.
Guys, it's good. It's really hard to eat. I haven't eaten cotton candy in a while.
Wow, to eat cotton candy clean on camera. Bridget, flawless execution.
This is pretty good, guys. This is really good.
Put that on the
Even our
end.
cameraman's having some. This is high quality. Want to take a bite?
All right. And last but not least, Sean.
Wait, I gotta pause. It just made me think of this. You're not gonna believe this, dude. I've never had cotton candy. I've never had cotton candy, dude. It just made me think of it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. First time, long times, whatever. All the people that have not been on any of these shows that Sean and I do, I'll run them down. He's never had hot fries. Okay, fine. It's a regional thing. You're from Michigan. They don't have hot fries there. Whatever.
Midwest guy.
Never had a grape. Never had a blueberry. He's been blueberry picking and never had a blueberry.
I never okay, yeah, keep going. Yeah.
He last week or 2 weeks ago, for the first time in his life, tried Greek yogurt, fell in love with it, and overdid it. Basically ate Greek yogurt every day for several days in a row. When your stomach is not used to a bunch of Greek yogurt, let's just say Sean is not eating Greek yogurt anymore for a while.
I'm dipping my toe back in this week. I'm ready.
You're gonna dip your toe back in? Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready
dipping your toe back in the yogurt. That's weird, but okay.
Yeah, for
sure. The weirdness of this guy's food habits, and so we're clear. His mom has reached out to me and emailed me and made it very clear that she provided fruit for this young man growing up.
But not cotton candy.
Not
cotton candy. She was pretty that was not getting brought into the house. I'll say that for sure.
And Jimmy H here, I'll tell you what, Sean is definitely not a foodie. What's weird is he has gone home from work at 11 p.m. at night. He left the office one night, went home, and as he explained it to me, he whipped up a batch of rigatoni
and vodka sauce.
And
but it was pre-made vodka sauce. I didn't make it from scratch. So
who does? But who does that? Like you're the weirdest foodie I know. Like you are a foodie, and yet you've never had. Like I wouldn't say foodies eat cotton candy on the regular, but I'll bet most foodies have tried a cotton candy or a grape. I mean, you've had wine.
Yeah, I've had a good deal of wine for sure.
A good deal of wine.
I like cooking a lot. I like fine dining. I certainly have my tastes. Cotton candy.
So Devin Dampier.
That was never really appealing to me, to be honest with you. I don't know if it's that appealing to me right now in the moment either. I'm gonna be straight with you. Although that stack was unreal. Good for those kids. That's sick.
It's all sugar and cotton candy, but anyway.
Yeah.
And here we are. One quick note on Sean's childhood is I don't think he did leave a deprived childhood.
I did not. I had a good childhood, and
his mom has told me in an email all of this was provided to him. He was just the kid that wouldn't eat it. He went blueberry picking and would not even eat a blueberry. Oh my goodness. This was
right.
TNT's last doubleheader. TNT's last doubleheader of the season. They were praising the crew there here in Albuquerque tonight. Takeo Spikes, Victor Cruz, Champ Bailey are the analysts there. And what they do with Victor Cruz, for those that remember, when he would score a touchdown, he'd salsa dance in the NFL, right, with the New York Giants. And so they have in a lot of these True TV games and Max, HBO Max or Go Max, whatever it is, Go HBO, whatever, their stream. These games, they ask the post-game player of the game that they interview if they would like to salsa dance. And here we are. Devin Dampier was their player of the game. And not only does Devin Dampier make an appearance here doing a salsa dance, but so does Frank Mercogliano, who then promptly gets some criticism for, well, here you go.
And so, Devin Dampier, each time we have someone on here, we want to celebrate by giving you the opportunity to do the salsa like Victor Cruz. Would you like to get down? Can we cue the music for you?
I got you.
Hey,
I can do a little salsa. I got you.
Take it away, Devin.
That's it. All right, go ahead. Hit it.
He's like, look, we got to get him out of here. I'll tell you who can salsa, that athletic department. He's looking jealous. Don't be a hater just because Devin got the salsa. We got to go.
Nah, he did just enough to appease us and make us happy.
Oh, yeah,
man. Great game, Devin. Great game.
There you go, Frank, getting criticized for rushing Devin off before he was done with his dance.
I appreciate Frank doing that. I appreciate that, frankly. But
Richie, a Giants fan, hearing Victor Cruz talk about Albuquerque or UNM blows his mind. That is a pretty star-studded cast right there of analysts. Champ Bailey, Takeo Spikes, and Victor Cruz. So it is kind of cool. I don't know how many of the current players know them. I imagine those aren't old enough players that these young bucks don't know them at all. But yeah. Anyway, there you go, Sean. There's what you missed on TV. You missed some salsa dancing and some cotton candy eating.
Yeah. I'll catch it all back when I rewatch it between tonight and tomorrow for sure.
Everybody who's watching, thank you for doing so. We do one of these every Monday afternoon around 2:00 pretty consistently, following Bronco Mendenhall's weekly press conference. As of now, that's still on schedule for Monday at 2, Sean?
Yeah, Monday at 2, as always. And that's been consistent throughout buys and game weeks. Excuse me, Monday. Yeah, the live show Monday at 2. So
and the pressers, earlier in the day. So,
yeah.
We will continue doing that. We'll continue doing these post-game shows. Really long one tonight. Apologize for that for Sean, who still has some work to do. And at least it's in Albuquerque, and you don't have to drive to Atlanta like you did after the Auburn game or anything like that. So all of you submitted questions or comments, thank you for doing so. And you guys are making this work. Please check out our work on abqjournal.com online or in print. You can subscribe and help local journalism. abqjournal.com/subscribe is how you can get there. But not just Sean's coverage of Lobo football. Also, Rick Wright has a column on the defense, which we talked a lot about in this show. James Yotis, as always, is just killing it with high school coverage. And then coming up this week, I'm heading to Vegas later this week and doing some Mountain West Media Day stuff for Lobo basketball and Mountain West basketball. So a lot of stuff going on, a lot of coverage in the pages of and on the homepage of the sports section of the Albuquerque Journal. Please check it out. Thank you guys for being here. Sean, thanks for being on.
Jeff, thank you for having me. Thank you to everybody that tuned in and basically produced our show for us with all the questions and all that and conversation points. We enjoyed these, and you guys add everything to it, quite literally. So appreciate it again, and thank you for having me on, Jeff.
Thanks for joining us, ABQ Journal Sports Live. Until next time, thanks to everybody for watching.